My name is Amiya Kumar Hazra. I've been in Avatar Meher Baba's contact now for about 18 years. And to me, Baba's physical absence doesn't matter in the least. In the earlier phase of this contact, I wanted to have downright personal experiences of such esoteric things as were described by Avatar Meher Baba in his discourses and books, particularly in God Speaks. Perhaps it was my science-oriented intellect that refused to take anything lying down or without due evidence that impelled me to go on demanding personal experiences of every kind to bring me to a satisfactory state of mind in which I could accept God, Godhood, and also Avatar Meher Baba as a divine being. Well, those days I was reading one of his books in which he has been describing the different planes of spiritual experience and consciousness of evolution. I still remember it was winter, and I had been reading about the wonderful lights, wonderful fragrance, and the ability to see a distance and to hear distant sounds which are given to a man whose consciousness is ushered into the planes of the mental planes from the first right up to sixth. Well, as usual, whenever I had a doubt, I used to go into my room and ask Baba, who wasn't there physically present, of course, he was 700 miles away, to give me a proof. And he did give me many proofs by that time. But on this occasion, I wanted a proof of the existence of such planes which are supersensory. Well, I prayed to Baba, somewhat like this: Baba, give me some experience of one of these planes, maybe the first plane perhaps, at least a few glimpses, just to make me bold enough to say to others too that yes, it's not all humbug or gossip, because I've been too much psychology-ridden at that time and too much steeped in such terms as hallucination, auto-suggestion, delusion, and such like things to believe in it outright. Well, I think after making that prayer, I'd forgotten about it, as I was quite busy. After having made that prayer, I think I was too busy to remember it, as I was really very much occupied with several affairs at that time, and I think a day or two might have passed. Well, one day, returning home and after having my dinner, I lay myself down on bed and put out the light. I wasn't in a mood to sleep at all. It was because I was in the habit of reading late in the nights, so I was fully awake. And suddenly what I saw was, gradually the whole room was getting filled with a sort of white light, snowy white light, very soft. And I do not know how to describe that light. It was not only soft, but it was also very pleasing. Wherever I saw in that room, I found it pervaded with that light. My doubting mind was immediately alert, and I just got up from the bed to find out the source of that light. I just thought in my mind, have I forgotten to switch off the light in the room? Well, no, the electric bulb was definitely not giving that light. Then I just peeped into the door to find out if the source of light was coming from some other room. Well, it wasn't that too. Then I looked out of the window to find if that light was coming from some other source outside the house. It wasn't that too. Then, well, I was a little perplexed, and I came down to my bed, sat on it, and started pondering. I couldn't really know how that light was there. Well, gradually, that soft, snowy white light was everywhere. It was a sort of ocean of light everywhere, so pleasing that I almost didn't know whether I was breathing. My whole body relaxed. It was a great peaceful state of mind. I lay myself down, and at the same time, still I wanted to be sure whether it was light from somewhere else or not. Well, I couldn't detect any source. Then I closed my eyes. It didn't make any difference, not the least difference. The light was there everywhere, and I couldn't help it. Now, in order to be still sure whether the light was coming from outside, maybe my eyelids are not powerful enough to prevent it coming into my retina, I just took the muffler I was wearing and covered my eyes with the muffler. Well, there was no difference. The light was everywhere, and I was almost swimming in it. Then I made a muffler fourfold and put it on my eyes, pressed down it very compactly just to prevent the light, and still it was there. Suddenly I remembered that I had prayed to Meher Baba to give me some experience, some glimpses. Now, when this happened, I wanted to be sure whether I wasn't inducing that state of experience in myself. Well, in those days, I was in habit of making mental calculations, mathematics as you call it. So I just started multiplying some such figures as 232 by 256, just in order to find out whether I was absolutely in my normal possession of all my senses. Well, the calculations came right. I also pinched myself just to find whether the senses are not deadened. And after I made myself absolutely sure that no, I was under no illusion, delusion, hallucination, etc., with all compliments to Freud and this group, I had nothing to do except lie down on the bed wondering what was happening to me. Well, there was that immense expanse of light, and then suddenly wonderful sprouts of colors, beautiful. Words will break their back in describing them. I was almost entranced, enchanted by that magic spectacle of such beautiful colors, fountains of colors, and then wonderful patterns. And it went on, I think, for about 15 minutes or so. I was enjoying it really, and suddenly what happened was something for which I was not prepared. I saw a golden ring, an orbit of golden light. It was afar off. Suddenly it started coming closer to me with tremendous revolutionary velocity, almost like the revolution that a bullet has when it's discharged from a gun. Well, it came nearer and nearer and nearer, and what I felt was as if my soul was leaving my body and I was being taken away from this world, never again to return to it, never again to really return to it, to my family, to my sister, to my mother, to my father, and to my friends. I didn't know where I was going. And in order to avoid that state, I felt that I was really being carried away for good. I just jumped out of my bed. In order to avoid and prevent any further experience of that kind, I jumped out of my bed and rushed out of the room and came right up to this veranda. We are recording my story. And I am not ashamed to tell you that I was so very much unnerved by that time that I lost control over my body, and I urinated and perspired. And suddenly I, just unlike myself, I was very arrogant and defiant, started shouting to Meher Baba, that's enough, forgive me for trying and testing you all that often. And I don't want this sort of thing, I don't want to die, don't send me away from this wonderful world, I want to live in it, such a beautiful place. And gradually, that experience passed. And the next morning I got up, and well, I remembered the experience, looked back into the books of psychology and said, no, this too has been some sort of hallucination, something. Next morning I got up and looked into the books of psychology, and then again the doubts returned to me, and I thought, no, really, last night's experience was nothing but hallucination. Well, I think after 3 or 4 days, I was sitting in daytime in my room, and I was just about to go for reading, my usual afternoon habit, but suddenly I saw a rectangular screen-like thing open before my eyes. And I could see across the walls of the rooms that intervened between my room and the veranda, my bicycle resting against the wall. I was surprised. Then I looked outside. I just willed to look outside the house, and I saw the street. I saw people going and coming. I willed to look still farther ahead. I saw the way, the main path, and I saw people coming and going. I looked far up to the crossing, Gamapur crossing, and everything was clear to me. It was broad daylight. I didn't know it couldn't be hallucination this time. And I just got up to be sure of things, and I really found the bicycle exactly where it was. I would like to mention here that even later on, there have been certain dreams, or I don't know what to call them, whether dreams or visions, which have absolutely come true, and my wife can testify to them, because I always used to tell her that I have seen this thing happen, and within a short time, really that thing happened. I saw a friend coming by car from Hyderabad with one of the windows recently replaced and the car of a definite color, and it was found to be true. Now that day, what happened to me was this. I felt very gratified. I thought, Meher Baba is definitely bringing me right up into some plane, and I'm going to be a bit of a saint. And now the first friend who comes to drop in the evening will be startled to know when I would be telling him that go right outside and you will find a man clad in green just passing by. And that very moment, suddenly it all stopped. And I must just tell you how pathetic I looked, I racked my brains, I just smeared my forehead, closed down the lids of my eye, tried to meditate, tried to find out that sort of experience again, but it was taken away. And I think Baba did the best thing, because alongside that experience, the first feeling that came into me when I was conscious that I was enjoying that sort of state was that I would definitely exploit it to my advantage to gain eminence, fame. And so it was natural Baba saved me from that sort of experience. Perhaps he would like to know certain other experiences I had. One I would definitely be able to tell you was that of fragrance. Well, there are definitely fragrances which you can inhale. I don't know whether right with the help of your nose or nostrils, but you do feel that you inhale. The story I wanted to tell you about is about fragrances that exist in inner planes of consciousness, which are accessible to one not through exactly what you call your physical senses, but nevertheless they're absolutely palpable. Well, I remember one day I experienced this sort of fragrance, indescribable in its sweetness, ineffable sweetness perhaps, and it was so touching, that fragrance, that I started breathing heavily, and every time I breathed that fragrance, I found tears gushing out of my eyes. It was too beautiful to be withstood, and I was emotionally so much I should say moved by that fragrance that I wanted to have more and more of it. And let me tell you that after about half an hour, that fragrance was no longer accessible to me, and for many days I was simply trying to sniff. I was trying to find that fragrance return to me, but it was in vain. And then I realized that the only fragrance worth smelling is the fragrance that is exuded by the red rose of divine love one has for Meher Baba, Jai Baba. That was the month of October 1957, and my father was seriously ill. He was taken in the operation theater for the operation of enlarged prostate, and he never returned from it alive. Very remarkable thing was, although he was a devotee of Sri Aurobindo, he asked me to give him a photograph of Meher Baba at that moment when he was being taken to the operation theater. After looking at Meher Baba's photograph, he closed his eyes and didn't even look at us. Well, I do not know how Baba sustains one in such periods. And after my father's death, I didn't in any way feel that I've lost him. But my mother broke down very badly, and she was weeping day in, day out, and we went to Guru Prasad, Pune, to have Baba's darshan. Baba looked at my mother and then looked at me and asked me, where were we staying? I said, we're staying with my relatives. Said, what about staying somewhere nearer Guru Prasad in some hotel? I told Baba that my mother wouldn't like to take food in a hotel. Baba again inquired what was wrong with food in the hotel. I told Baba that my mother has become a widow, my father is dead, and according to certain customs, old notions, a Bengali Brahmin widow doesn't like to take food in a hotel. I told Baba that mother is a widow, and according to the Bengali widow's notions, mother doesn't want to take her food in a hotel. Baba looked at me, registering a surprise in his looks, and said, well, Amiya, am I not your father? I said, yes, Baba, you are my father. Said, if I am your father, how can she be a widow? I said, no, she cannot be a widow. So then she can eat food in a hotel. And Baba looked at mother and said, well, you can eat food in hotel, it doesn't matter. And then again he looked towards me and said, Amiya, I am the father and the husband of the whole universe. I bowed down to Baba and said, yes, Baba, and I'm so happy to know that you are my father. And I only pray in my heart that you would never disown me. Well, a few days later, when I was sitting in Guru Prasad Hall, taking Baba's darshan along with others, Baba rose and he was about to go when I went and placed my head on his feet, devoutly praying to Baba inwardly to give me a proof that he had really owned me and would be protecting me ever, forever. And when I had bowed down to Baba, I wanted to raise my head, and I found that a waft of breeze came, and Baba's sadra just surrounded me from all sides, so that I couldn't just lift my head. And thus Baba stood, and I was still kneeling at his feet for some moments. At last, I had to take my head out of his sadra, looked at him, and he was looking down at me, beaming with a beaming smile, and then I went away. Many a times, Baba had given me that feeling that he loved me very dearly, and his letters always assured me that my beloved son should ever know that he is always under my loving care and protection, and shouldn't worry about anything, should be very courageous, and he should go out to different places to sing my name and to speak about me, because Baba knows his dear son and knows that this dear son is ripening in Baba's love. Well, for one thing, I was very sure of that. And again I wanted such letters to come to me to keep my spirits high and add a little more iota of faith in my own self. And I still remember that my beloved Baba, whether he was physically meeting me at Guru Prasad, or physically away from me while I was in Jabalpur or moving anywhere throughout this country, While I was ill or well, I always knew that Baba was with me. I felt his presence absolutely palpably. Felt his presence palpably always with me. And I may give you the latest example of how Baba becomes present with me. And that was when I went to Ahmednagar a year back. Well, my eyesight has deteriorated very badly and I am suffering from what you call myopic cataract. An operation is perhaps imminent, which definitely offers a challenge to surgical skill. But meanwhile, so long the operation is not there, I have to somehow carry on with very poor eyesight. Well, I undertook this journey to Meherabad, and I had gone to Meherabad just feeling that Baba would be helping me in case I was needing any help, and I know I wouldn't be telling you all those methods and by which he helped me all the way to Meherabad. I had such a nice time. Baba's Murli was, as always, very kind to me. I still remember Baba's Murli, always very full of love for me. And Erech once, when I asked him to give me a line, a sentence, by way of autograph, wrote, Amiya is very dear to me because Amiya has always been very dear to Baba. Well, I went up to the trust office. I found Bhav and Erech sitting there. We were talking for some time. And then it was time for me to leave Ahmednagar to be back home. I just stood by Baba's photograph, looked at Baba's photograph. A garland was hanging from that photograph. Inwardly I prayed, Baba, there was a time when I used to test you very much. Out of your love, out of your deep understanding of my limited understanding, you forgave and you always gave me proof of your divinity. Just because you loved me too much to feel offended. And today, of course, I have absolute full faith in you. But today, just for the sake of a bit of good humor or a little bit of fun, won't you oblige me, condescend to oblige me once again by making some sort of demonstration that you are here, right here in this photograph. The photograph is in the trust office. I was looking at Baba's photograph and suddenly I said to Baba inwardly, Baba, I'm too old now for these sorts of things. I feel ashamed of asking it. But as I told you, it'll give me some more faith and courage, some fortitude perhaps. Make your garland move a little. And it'll give me ample proof that yes, you are here, right here with me. And I tell you, of course, I expected the garland to move like this. But it didn't move like this. It turned. It took a full swing. And I just wanted to see if Bhav or Erech were looking at me, but thanks God they weren't. And I was so happy, I wanted to keep it a secret. I was so happy, and I wanted to keep it a secret from everybody else, but then I have come across a robber, a terrible one, and that is dear brother Irwin. He seems to rob me of everything, even of my secrets, and I couldn't help telling it to him. But I also felt ashamed later on, when I boarded the train, that I should have asked Baba, when I am 44 years old, to produce evidences of his presence like that. But suddenly I remembered that though it was childish, still, after all, we can never be too mature, even in his love. And being his children, we can just have that sort of what you call privilege to ask our divine dad for anything and everything. Well, I mean it very seriously. I think I have read thousands of books. Teaching is my profession. I have read books in different branches of knowledge, science, humanities, and other things. And, well, I read Baba's books. Nothing seems to count to me. The tremendous thing that has happened to my life is the occurrence of Meher Baba in it. Well, I found God absolutely sure, and there's no doubt about it, for me at least, and I'm very fortunate that I found God He exists. He existed in the shape of Meher Baba. Even when Meher Baba has dropped his physical body, Meher Baba is present with us. Wherever I go, wherever his lovers go, he is with them. He is with me. And I'm sure that he lasts. Nothing may last, but he lasts. And our love with him is justified in this, that he is none other than ourselves, our own real self. And I do not know. This is the beginning and end of all knowledge, perhaps, to know that Baba has come to us as human being. Baba the God has come to us as human beings so that human beings may be able to recognize that there is a God who is governing this creation, and that now, instead of being so very much creation-minded, we should turn towards our Creator and straightway walk into Him. I don't know, I may just go on like this, and I don't think I'm very relevant now at this moment, because when I've said what I wanted to say, it's no use just going on saying the same thing, harping on the same tune. Well, I think I'm very fortunate to have that knowledge given to me, which couldn't have been brought out of any book, any books, any science, any faculties, any pursuits of difficult natural subjects. In a moment, Baba, by his grace, has given that one conviction that Baba is God.